Welcome to the Here's Hope Project, where your story creates hope. I'm Sarah Jane, and in today's episode, we're going to speak with Shari Almeida, who is Dakota's mom. Now, Dakota was diagnosed with leukemia in April 2019, and she is now 2 years cancer-free. So we're going to speak with Shari about what life is like after treatment. We'll talk about grief, trauma, and sort of the tsunami of emotions that remain and happen once treatment is over. We're also going to talk about the silver linings, about how it has affected her relationship with her husband, and then we'll talk about her new book called I See You. So we have a lot to cover today, so let's get to it.
'Cause it's here where we lay in my blanket of despair, where I'm weak but I'm strong, and black smoke fills the air.
Welcome, Shari Ann. Thanks for coming on to talk with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for having that platform for women like me to freely speak and advocate. So thank you to you.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. This is my passion. Absolutely love doing this. This is my life from here on out. So I want to kick things off by announcing that it has been decided you, my friend, are my very first guest.
Yay! I'm honored. Thank you so much. I'm stoked. That's so cool.
Awesome. I'm kind of nervous, but I'm a lot more excited than I am nervous. So.
Yeah. You'll do great, and this is awesome, and I'm just so proud of you, and I'm honored to do this with you. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We're definitely starting off strong.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited about this episode because we'll be talking about what life is like after treatment. Because a lot of people think that, once a child gets to ring that bell, that it's, all rainbows and unicorns and life must be amazing and you can go back to living a normal life. But that is so far from the truth.
Yes, 150%.
Not only do you have to deal with side effects from like the treatment and chemo, but there's still a roller coaster of emotions that go along with it. So we're definitely going to be talking about that today. Before though, why don't you, if you can just give us a snapshot of sort of Dakota's journey, maybe how she was diagnosed, what treatment was like, and just who she is.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dakota was diagnosed at 6 months old with infantile pre-B-cell leukemia. There were very minimal symptoms that as a brand new mom, I kind of brushed off. Things like a runny nose that I chalked up to teething, a few faint green bruises, much, much, much lighter than your beautiful sweater that you're wearing today. Low grade fevers, but again, as a brand new mom, you know that's accompanied with teething. But the pediatrician said that she just wanted to dive into it a little bit more. And this was at just her 6-month well visit. We didn't end up at the doctor for any particular reason other than it was a well visit. So from there, we went for blood work and we were admitted that night, April 24th, 2019. Dakota was immediately put in the rare category due to her age. She was 6 months old, which automatically made her prognosis different than the typical range. Right away, we were told that they were going to throw the kitchen sink at her. Reason being is because she was in the rare category, and the number one goal was to get her MRD negative or minimal residual disease within the first 29 days. And thank the Lord, Dakota is an incredible warrior and took it all and swallowed it whole and ended up MRD negative, which was amazing. And she went through 2 full years of chemotherapy. So she finished treatment right before her 3rd birthday. And so that was April 2021. And she is now 2 years in remission. She will not be considered cured for another 3 years at least. I know those numbers they're still playing with a little bit, but as of right now, at least another 3 years until she is considered a survivor of infantile pre-B-cell leukemia. Yeah.
Dakota, she is a powerhouse.
She
really is. I can actually see a lot of you in her.
From
what I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love her videos, my favorite, and I'm probably going to share this off and on. I know I've already shared it, and I think you probably know what I'm going to say. But it's
Yes.
the one with the fashion show.
Yes.
It's the Pediatric Cancer Foundation. They did this show, and she's strutting down the runway with her like black jumpsuit, and she comes to the end of the runway. She's waving, and she whips herself around, puts her hair in like a ponytail, and it's written like Dakota in
Yep.
gold on the back.
That's right.
It's just that moment. She's like, Dakota.
Yeah.
The dramatic kind of, it
Yeah.
shows her personality and just how strong she is and how confident she is.
She is. Yeah. She definitely. Yeah, ever since she was a baby, as soon as she came out, she owned the room. She was doing push-ups off the nurse's chest. She has owned a room ever since she entered this world, and cancer didn't take that from her. In fact, I swear it just made her light brighter, and she has no shame in shining her light, and I high five it all day. She's the most incredible human that I know.
You should. One of my favorite things that you write in your post a lot is she throws glitter at the devil.
Yeah, she does. She does. She laughs in his face. She throws glitter in his face, and she smiles hard at him. And I said, if anyone can melt him, it's her. It really is. It's her. She fights with love, and it's the most incredible thing in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Thanks.
So it's been 4 years now since your world kind of turned upside down and she was diagnosed. And then fast forward to today, a few weeks ago, actually, she celebrated 2 years of being in remission.
That she did. Yes, it was incredible. We, it's crazy when we were in treatment. Again, she was 6 months old, and one of the only things that seemed to settle her and calm her down, whether she was on steroids and we were in the hospital or at home, or she was on chemo and getting sick, one of the only things that calmed her down was the Moana song, How Far I'll Go. And it's just extremely sentimental that even 4 years later, it is still something that she is so drawn to. In fact, she woke up on that day, her eyes were still closed, and she said, "Mama, it's my special day." And it was barely 6 o'clock in the morning, mind you. And I said, "Yes, baby, it is." And she said, "Can we watch Moana?" Like first thing in the morning, that is what she wanted. And I'm like fighting back tears because it's just something so incredible. And I love that Moana is not a typical princess. In fact, that she's a warrior, and she's a fighter, and she stands up for what she believes in, and she goes against the grain. And my gosh, if that's not my daughter, So it's just something super incredible. And 2 years we celebrated, just a few weeks ago, 2 years.
Yeah. I love how music does that.
Yes.
With
So
you. And I love that song specifically kind of helped you guys through treatment.
Yes. And it does, it's even a friend from middle school. She had sent me a Moana CD because Dakota even struggled with being in the car because we were battling cancer and COVID at the same time. So Dakota would be scared of being in the car because she associated the car with something bad was going to happen. And we were going to a place where bad things were going to happen and it was going to hurt. So we would play the CD of Moana, and it was, again, something that calmed her down. And still to this day, we get in the car and that's what she wants to listen to. So I'll be happy if she's 35 and still wants to listen to it.
I love that. So that's 2 years. That's a milestone. Huge milestone. So when you think about, just what's happened in the past 5 years, let's just take the last 5 years, right? You became a new mom to a cancer mom, living a parent's worst nightmare, to going through 2 years of treatment. A global pandemic hits while you're still in treatment. Right. And then thankfully she beats cancer.
Yes.
And then you write a book.
Yeah.
That's a lot to happen in just 5 years. So when you think about all that has happened and how that has changed, what kind of emotions and thoughts does that pull up?
I think I'm flabbergasted. But even just today, we were doing just a simple thing, hanging out at the pool, and there were, two women sitting right next to us, and they know Dakota's story, so they were asking about her. And I was saying how just sitting here doing something so simple as swimming literally brings tears to my eyes and makes me cry in a good way, because there were so many moments that I wasn't sure that we would get to this place, right? And even while I'm in this place, I'm still not sure how long we get to be here. So I really try to savor the moment and hold on to it for dear life. And looking back at the last 5 years, everything that we have gone through as a family, everything that the three of us have gone through on an individual basis, it is truly remarkable that each one of us is still standing, that each one of us is still taking breath. And most importantly, that each one of us, or that we're together, that we chose to remain holding hands and being together. It is a true testament of our fight as individuals, but more so our fight as a family. And there is nothing that could break us. We've already been through everything except one that hopefully we'll never face again, that could possibly break us. And it's just incredible. And we truly do find our strength in one another. We push one another, we push each other, we challenge each other. And the hard part and the good part about all three of us is we hold each other accountable. And the bar that we set for all of us as a unit is extremely high, and we expect nothing less. And but we also cheer each other on. There's nobody that goes harder in the corner than the three of us do for one another. So we really rally, and we're just doing the best we can with what we have. And I think what really pushes us even more is knowing that there are other people out there just like us, and we have to do better for them. It's not just about us. And I think when I think about the last 5 years and all the grief that we have endured, there's also been this gratitude that just has such enormity that it's overwhelming. And even though I hate where we are, I'm honored. Yeah.
That's one of the great things that comes out of something. I mean, one of the silver linings, right, is that gratitude and appreciation for life and for the moments that you get.
Absolutely.
So I know we spoke actually before, and I'm wondering, like, once treatment ends, there's still kind of a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, you obviously feel gratitude. A lot of good comes from it, but it's still hard. Can you talk maybe a little bit more about what kind of emotions kind of come out of that when you reach the end?
Sure, absolutely. I think it's something that really needs to be spoken about much more. And I hope that I open up the free space for that to happen. I think when you're in treatment, you are so submerged in survival mode, and you are on autopilot. And that's not a choice. It's something that has to happen in order for you to endure everything that you are about to endure, and everything that you have no idea is already coming your way, And I think every individual deals with that in a different manner, whether it be mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, anybody, everybody deals with that in a different way, especially, the warrior. Dakota was an infant, and they would always say, she won't remember this, but my response is, and I'll never forget. So when you come out, all of a sudden your safety net, it's like, it's not just one rope is cut and it breaks apart slowly. All of a sudden the entire net just rips open, and you just plummet to the bottom of the ocean. Like there's no hold on tight. It's just go, right? And when you crash, it's a whole other way of losing your breath, losing your soul, losing your will to live, and your fight to live, right? It's similar in that, and I would never take away from or try to even be in comparison to a soldier who has been in war, but That is the only way I can bring a comparison in that just because you come home, it doesn't mean you are home, right? So everything that you've gone through, it's still in your head. It's still in your heart. It never, ever goes away. And while you're in the war and you're fighting, you don't have time to think about the who, what, when, where, and why. You don't have time to check in with your heart and see if it's still beating. You most of the time are holding your breath. And so when you finally come out of it, you're gasping for breath while plummeting all at the same time. And for my husband and I, we both experienced that on an individual basis. We both ended up hospitalized because of physical detriments. And it's something that is briefly discussed, may it be hair loss, weight gain, loss of appetite on a minimal scale, I would say, right? But the panic attacks, the anxiety attacks, the stuff that makes you feel like you question whether or not you are fit for this world anymore, that is the stuff that needs to be spoken about much more, and it's not. And again, my husband and I faced all of those things on an individual basis, but on many different levels. We even got to a place where we separated. And I think that's something, again, that people don't talk about, what it does to your marriage. We had gotten married, we had a miscarriage, and then we found out we were pregnant with Dakota. And then Dakota gets diagnosed with cancer. So then we get to this place at the end and we're like, we don't even know each other anymore. We don't even know ourselves anymore. How do you take all these pieces and put it back together? It was so overwhelming that there was not even a place to start. And I think more so, we couldn't be a team because we were so broken as individuals, right? And it really took the two of us to say, this is what I need to get better for myself. And we needed to say those things out loud to one another and to really be heard and to really be seen in the way that we were dealing with our own grief without blame or shame, right? And then the other choice that we had to make was, can we do this together? Can we make a choice to do this together? Or do we just throw in the towel and say, you know what, this killed us and we just have to let go? And don't get me wrong, all of that was on the table. But Cody and I hate to fail at anything. We are very, very similar in that way. Cody and I absolutely adore each other and love each other in such a way that I can't even describe. And we hated that the other person was broken, but more so we hated that we weren't able to fix it. And the one thing that we knew that we couldn't do was fail each other by quitting on each other. So he called me one day and he said, I wish we could just hit the restart button. I wish we could just start over. And that's exactly what we did. We packed our entire life up in boxes again. And a lot of it was still in boxes from before she was even diagnosed. We lived in the hospital. So, and there was COVID. So life was just in boxes. So we were like, we'll just keep on moving on, right? So that's what we did. And it was the greatest decision we ever made. And it's not to say that we're perfect. We are far from. That's not to say that we don't still deal with grief. We still deal with grief every single day. It's something that never, ever goes away. But we have listened to one another. We have seen one another, and we have chosen to respect one another and how we grieve. And in fact, that has actually brought us closer together and reunited us, and we've relearned how to fall in love with each other once again, and get to know each other as who we are now and let go of everything in the before, including who we were before, because we'll never be those people again, but we're okay with that. And not to say that that's for everybody. It's just that was our way of coping. And it's something that we have to put forth an effort to every single day.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, I mean, there's the silver lining right there, is it kind of strengthened your relationship and made you guys stronger.
We really did, you know. Obviously, we know that at any given point, we could go right back to where we were, and it's gut-wrenching. But the rainbow in it is that there is not one day that goes by that we don't know how incredibly lucky and blessed we are. And the little things like being able to have breakfast together in the morning, or watching the three of them chase each other around at night before bed. It's a blessing. We are so lucky that we get to do that, you know?
With what you were saying a little bit earlier when you were speaking, it made me think, you know, when you're in treatment, your adrenaline's going and you're solely focused, and it's kind of like everything kind of just freezes.
Yes.
And then treatment ends and it's just, suddenly everything is released. And that's the time when you're actually able to reflect on the past and kind of take everything in and really digest it and process it. And so it makes sense that there's just a lot of kind of ups and downs. And like we were talking once, you and I, about grief and how it's not linear at all. It kind of, it's circular. It goes in all, it goes every which way. Yeah. Up, down, inside, outside.
Yes, exactly. It's so true, you know, and I think that goes for anyone. You don't have to be a cancer family to experience grief. And I think that one of the main things that we can speak about in grief is not just the loss of a person here on earth. Grief has so many different forms, and everyone has a right to cope in their own way. And no one can honestly say how they're going to deal until they're in the actual situation. And nor is there a timeline. There's no alarm that sounds when your time of grieving is over. I have moments where I'm totally fine, and then I have moments where I'm hysterical, crying on the bathroom floor, smiling and talking about cupcakes. You know, it's different for everyone, and that's okay. You know, and I think for us, when we were in treatment, we couldn't process that. You know, and I think there was so much anger and misunderstanding. We couldn't wrap our brains around what was happening nor what needed to happen. And even specifically today, I said there was one point where Cody said, "I can't live in your world." And I said, "I know you can't, and you don't know how to live in mine." And I think for a really long time, we butt heads about that. And now we're in this place where that's just the way it is. You know, I don't know how to live in a world outside of pediatric cancer, because now that I know, I can't unknow it. And now all I want to do is better. And for him, he got up and went to work every single day and took care of his family. And so he would be at the hospital, but he would also be out in the world and pretending as if our world wasn't on fire. So his perspective is completely different. And I think the fact that we've chosen to meet each other in the middle and accept as individuals how we need to do things has really made us better friends, made us a better couple, and really in turn made us a stronger family.
What would you say that grief is? Because I think when most people think about grieving, you're thinking of the loss of something. Is it the loss of the life you thought you could have, or the loss of what you had planned for Dakota? Or what does that grief look like? Or what is that actually? What are you grieving?
So I actually saw a video today that really hit the nail on the head for me. And I think it was more so, and I love the way that you said that, because I really feel like a lot of people look at me and ask that, like, this is self-serving. Like, you're doing it to yourself because you won't shut up about it, because you constantly talk about it. So if you constantly talk about it, then you're going to constantly feel it. But what I think they don't understand is there is no off button. There is not one moment that I don't get peace and it is probably one of the only forms of peace that I feel, by watching Dakota's chest rise and fall. It is one of the greatest things in the world to me that I hold on to multiple times a day to keep me going. And the moments where I couldn't see that and I couldn't feel that, I don't know how to not relive them. Every single time she coughs, every time it sounds like there's a wheeze back there, every single time she says that she doesn't feel good, that her head hurts, or right now there's this bruise and a weird spot on her body that is just way too dark for my liking. That's my grief. And maybe my grief coincides with PTSD, but I'm grieving the fact that we can't just lay on the couch and watch a movie without scanning her body and wondering if we're missing something. I'm grieving, right? I'm grieving the fact that she can't go outside and play without coming over and reminding me, hey, this happened. I think this is what this is from, because she does it. She's learned how to check in with herself and to know what her body looks like and when something is off, right? And I think it's again a grief. It's grief and PTSD all in the same water bowl, and it's become so muddled that it's really hard to differentiate the two. But somebody said it perfectly in a video I saw earlier today. And she said, I was told that she could die. I lived in that moment that she could die. She could be taken away from me. And now every single day, I'm afraid she's dying. And every single day, I'm afraid she could be taken away from me. And I think I speak on behalf of millions of mothers all over the world. I hate that we know that feeling, but once you know it, you can't unknow it. And that is grief. For me, at least.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks. That was actually really well put. Definitely a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
You go through something like that and your nervous system is just completely thrown out of whack.
Yes.
And your mind and your body have sort of trained itself to always be on edge and aware of the things that could happen at any given moment.
Yes.
It's a struggle to even really be fully in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You're always prepared for war. You're ready at any second to shield up, put your sword up and go, you know?
Yeah. And, it kind of makes me think of Whiplash too. I don't like you're in a car and you're driving and you're cruising and you're on the right path and everything's going great. And then suddenly you find yourself having to slam on the brakes and you're jolted forward and you get the wind knocked out of you. And then like it takes a few moments and you catch your breath again and you're able to start driving again. And only to have it happen again and again and again.
Right. Exactly. And let me tell you something about that whiplash. Your grip only gets tighter. It never loosens, and the other thing that I saw today, it said you get better at masking it. So you get better at smiling while inside you're over here like, oh my goodness, is that petechia on her cheek? Is that bruise way too dark? That headache, where's her headache? Where is it? How many days have we had a headache now? But you're smiling. You just get better at putting your mask on and not going into complete panic mode every single time. But I am absolutely convinced that it never goes away. That grip only gets tighter.
So how do you cope with that? What's underneath the mask? What are some of the coping mechanisms you have and how do you heal?
Yeah. So for me, it's always been writing and exercise ever since I was a young girl at middle school into high school. I've always been an athlete my entire life. It was always my outlet. I like to sweat. I like to feel a little bit of that physical exertion and pain. And then writing, it has always been very therapeutic for me to put words on paper. It's almost like taking what's inside of me and giving them visible life. And in some way it makes me it makes me feel better. It's a release, and it's something that I did in treatment. I would do squat challenges and I would do push-up challenges, and I did all kinds of things with Dakota in tow with 50 million wires and tubes coming out of everywhere. But for me, it was showing up for myself and showing up for her in the same moment. It was being an example of strength. That I had no physical strength, no mental strength, no emotional strength. There is no way that I should have been able to even do one squat, but I would do 100 on some days, and it was me proving to myself that I was so much stronger than I thought I was, and then showing up for my daughter and saying that there is nothing that we can't face together. There is not anything that you are not strong enough to get through. And still to this day, we do it. Yeah, just yesterday, I was running on the treadmill and I told her to get down and do push-ups. She finished her push-ups. And then she started doing squats, and then she started doing sit-ups. So she's the exact same way. And in writing, she absolutely loves writing as well. And she even said the other day that's what she wants to be when she grows up, and was like, got tears in my eyes. I'm like, did you really just say that? But she loves to write. She writes notes all day long for her friends, for people in the community, for me and her dad. She loves to write. And I think it's a really great thing. They're healthy outlets. They are releases, and it's validating her feelings, giving her permission to feel what she feels and not making her feel shame for it. But it's also strengthening her in ways that she has no idea yet. And in her physical body, being able to release that through exercise, I high five that all day. So that's personally what has worked for me.
That's great. Speaking of writing,
yes,
you have a book to talk about.
Yes.
You are such a beautiful writer, and I'm not saying, this book is amazing. Whoever is listening, I really, really encourage you to take a look at this book. It's very poetic, and it's just, I love the metaphors and the way that you're really good at I can't speak. You're really good at just painting a picture of what it's like to be in that kind of isolating and that kind of world. Your book, it's a real and honest account of what too many people are kind of thrust into. No one signs up for that. Your book, it really does, like I just said, show the darkness and the isolation that goes through it, goes along with it. But it isn't a story without hope. It's because you really do take us on a journey where kind of love and determination really does outweigh the darkness, which I love. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And, you're with that book, you're helping other parents and other families feel seen, which is important. Hence the title, I See You.
Right, exactly.
You give them hope by kind of showing them how you were able to stay afloat despite wanting to kind of fall apart and shut down. Yeah. Absolutely. So I guess I don't want to talk too much about your book. This is you.
No, I love hearing you talk about it. I think you describe it so beautifully, and it makes my heart leap out of my chest because you get it. You really truly get it.
I've read it 1.5 times. So I've read it once all the way through, and then I just loved it just because of how you're really able to capture here, hold on. Hold on, let me find a quote. One quote that I'm always going to remember that's my favorite is, we heard enough words to destroy an army with a whisper. I absolutely love that. Another quote here, this came from this, you wrote this in the beginning of the book. This is kind of when Dakota was just being diagnosed, and the doctors had said, this could still be a virus, but it's most likely leukemia. And so you wrote, I was still mothering while choking down the reality she could be dying in my arms. Yep. My body had been hosed in nitrogen gas. I was paralyzed. I was trapped inside a plastic bag, my nails shredding to create holes as I was gasping for air. That's a hard image to picture, but you really do paint a great picture of what this is like. I read that and I feel it.
I'm listening to you read it and I'm holding my heart because I feel it, absolutely. And that is, it's, I remember when I started writing, I was in a creative writing class, and our teacher told us to take a pen to paper, and she was going to set a timer, and we were not allowed to lift our pen from the paper. We just had to write whatever was coming to mind, and you were out if your pen came off the paper. So it's called a stream of conscious. So you're just sitting there streaming, like you are, everything that's in here is just falling out of your head onto the paper. And that is how I learned to write. It's not, and it's not something I taught myself how to do. That is just what happened in those moments. And it became my way of writing. And for me, I want to read something that takes me and puts me right in the moment. I don't want to just be a fly on the wall. I want to taste it. I want to smell it. I want to feel it. I want you to put me exactly where you are. And I want to embody everything that you are experiencing. And as disgusting and vile and cold and dark as the last few years of our life have been, I did that with intention, because I can't make the world just look and understand. They don't want to look. So I have to make them physically feel everything that pediatric cancer families actually feel. I have to invoke those horrific emotions, because there's no human that could pick up that book and read any one line and not have something stir inside them. And that is my point. Children aren't going to stop dying because you put a cute kid on a commercial. You have to make the world actually feel what we feel. You have to grip their humanity, their emotions, the stuff inside that they are afraid to be vulnerable with. And you have to invoke those vulnerabilities.
And
there's not one. Go ahead.
You 100% get that across. I'm not a cancer mom.
Yeah.
I read your book, and I feel like I'm right there with you in it. And it's beautiful. So it's not, even if you're listening to this and watching this podcast episode and you're not a cancer mom, still it's beautiful. And you will still find ways to relate just with the words and the way there's so many metaphors just all throughout the book. And it's so beautiful. It really is. I can't do enough of it. It's definitely a book that I'm going to go back to and read over and over and over again. It also just gets my creative juices flowing, like just in general. So I love that. I love it. My favorite book right now. It really is.
I love it.
What are you hoping that other people will take away from it?
Everything that you just said. I couldn't help but to, and still to this day, I feel the same way. I'm constantly thinking of the women all over the world that are just like me. And this is my way of getting to them. I can't physically be in the room with them when they are enduring all the moments that I know all too well. But this is my way of reaching them, holding their hand, hugging them, holding them through it, and letting them know, hey, me too. I know, because I have literally been right here. And that was my very first goal. But while I was trying to chase that goal, other goals were born, in that I don't want it to just be relative to just a cancer mom. I want it to be relative to people all over the world from all different walks of life. I want people to understand that there are children dying, and they don't have to be. Mm-hmm. That there are families being ripped apart limb by limb, and they don't have to be. That there is suffering behind brick walls, and when you drive to work every single day and you drive past those walls and you're mad because your coffee spilled a little bit, there is a family being beat with a hammer while being told that they could lose their child at any given second. So really, what do you have to be so mad about? Really, what gripe do you have today? Because you don't get it. You don't understand how truly lucky you are to get to drive to work, to get to have that cup of coffee, to get to take your kid to the playground that day. You are so incredibly lucky because there are so many people all over the world that would give anything to live your day to day. So it's bringing awareness, it's advocating for the children and for the families, but it's also just reminding humans to be human and to be grateful for every single day that you get to live life. Because you have no idea, and I know it's so cliche, but you have no idea whether or not you will wake up tomorrow. You have no idea within the next few hours where you're going to be. So just know that you need to stay as present as possible and more so filled with an enormity of gratitude because you get to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you said it. That's it. You did it. You did it. We need to make this on the New York bestsellers list.
I would love that.
Come on, people. Read this.
Yes, let's go.
Let's do it. We can do it. We can get you there. Yeah. So we are out of time. We're actually over time, but I can talk to you for so much longer. And so I'm having fun. And this episode,
I know this has been a blast.
I was so nervous, but now I'm like, got this. I just want to keep going. But unfortunately, we are out of time. I'm trying to keep these to about 30 minutes. We're at 40 minutes now. But okay. So where can people find this book? Where can they get it? And how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can absolutely, the book is available on Amazon. It is also available on Barnes & Nobles. It is also available at bellasteri.com. You can reach out to me directly through my email, S as in Sam, MCCAUL 7427 at Hotmail. You can find me on Facebook at Shari and Almeida. I'm very responsive to messages and emails, and I want to talk to you. I want to help anyone, whether you are a cancer mom, a cancer family, you know somebody who may want to connect. You maybe want to donate this book. That is something that a lot of people have done. They've actually reached out and said, hey, I would love to purchase this book and actually donate it to a cancer family. So please reach out to me personally. I want to make those things happen. And I'm just here to advocate and help. So even if it's just to shoot me a message and say, hey, I just wanted to say hi, and I just wanted to check in and thank you, and maybe ask if, we could chat a little bit. I'm always open to that. So, yeah.
I would love to see that book in the hands of everyone in the cancer ward, like on the hospital that's just beginning.
Yes.
So they can really just see what it's like and what to expect, and of feel seen and heard. So
absolutely.
So everyone, that's what the book is called. It's called I See You.
Yes.
Check it out.
Yes.
But we are out of time. So thank you so much for coming on and just chit-chatting with me, for talking.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast. And again, thank you for creating the space for us to be free. And thank you for seeing us.